Vengeance returns, and so does Star Ace. Here's your look at the new Star Ace Underworld Evolution. This is the Selene Blue Eyes version, 1/6 scale collectible figure. From the My Favorite Movies series, the 1/6 scale collectible figure of Selene is product code SA0048 and features LED light-up eyes. As we get the review underway, the first thing we're going to do is measure off to the very top of Selene's head. Whilst I do that, I'd also like to send a big thank you to the folks over at Star Ace, who were nice enough to send this my way. According to the readouts on my trusty tape measure, the new figure of the new Selene stands 11.8 inches in height, and that works in centimeters out to be 30.2, a little over 30 centimeters tall. Now, don't worry, we're going to do some comparisons with the version 1 Selene. I have that still in my collection. But the first thing we're going to do before we do that is have a look at the display stand that comes included with this Selene. And that is an oval-shaped display stand featuring Underworld along the top. The original stand was an all-black stand as far as I remember, and it also had the Underworld along the top. I don't display my Selene with that, so that's why there's some hesitation in which I say that. But that Selene also did have a waist clip, if memory serves me correctly. I'm glad they went the route instead of using just a support cradle, in which the figure, of course, is going to sit on top of or stand on top of that. As it goes for bases, there's no bells, no whistles, but I do like the additional printing that they added on to the top and giving the additional coloring to an otherwise all-black figure. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Now, obviously, you guys are going to want to see some comparisons, and I hope you're sitting down for this, because I didn't realize what drastic changes they made from the original release, version 1, to the version 2 with the blue eyes. I just want to bring in, here is the original Selene that we had a look at. At its time, I will give it credit, it was a pretty decent enough Selene. Vast improvements can certainly be said was made now to the changing of what they've done differently to the version 2. And we'll do some comparisons with the faces and all that stuff in a second. It seems like the outfit is the same, the jacket is the same. Again, we'll kind of do some closer looks in a second. The only thing that really has changed, and no, we're not talking about the fact that the Selene version 1 happens to have pistols in her hand. No, but the main changes are the fact that they've also swapped the head sculpt out with plastic sculpted hair, instead favoring doll hair, and I think it works better on this release. So, showing you what a close-up look at both of the faces end up giving you, yes, there is a vast difference between the plastic molded hair that they gave us for version 1 and the new doll rooted hair that they gave us for version 2. I do want to also say this, when I got this, I haven't done any tweaking to her hair. Anybody looking at that could probably certainly say that you could go in there with some product. I might consider doing some product, not on my own hair, but certainly on the hair of Selene, just to kind of clean up shop. I do that with some, if not all, the ones that actually have doll hair. To some extent, I do add like a little bit of product. Sometimes I just add a little bit of water, actually, just to kind of smooth things down, flatten things out, and make sure that it doesn't look overly puffy. But still, it's a stellar head sculpt. We just move the hair out of the way. Let's just move the hair out of the way here. And if we look at that side by side, pardon the messy bedhead, you'll definitely see that there is a big difference that they've made for it. Of course, there is still the Kate Beckinsale likeness, although I must say it looks better on the newer one than the older one. Although when you look at it, there's not really that much that seems to have been changed other than different paint. And maybe paint is just what's causing the big change for what it is. I mean, again, like looking at the two, there's nothing really necessarily wrong with version 1, this one right here, but going away from plastic hair, some dolls, some 6-scale figures, a slip of the tongue there, some figures actually have rooted doll hair, and it works. Sometimes there's other figures that I think deserve having plastic molded hair because sometimes you just can't get the hair quite right. I think in the case here of Selene, now that I see the two side by side, I think going rooted hair was the better route to go. Granted, yes, it will still involve you going in there and kind of fixing up shop because that doll hair is notorious. You know, you never can quite get it completely suited and tailored in the way that you want it. But it definitely does make it look more realistic. I think the hair, though, I probably would have dyed one shade darker. Selene's hair, after all, in the movie is quite jet black. And again, a lot of this could be contributed to the fact that I right now just got it completely out of the box as is. I want to stress that. I haven't changed anything to the hair. I did this intentionally so that you guys could see what it looks like. There's nothing worse than me going in there with some gel and feeling like I'm Vidal Sassoon going in there fixing up the hair if that's not what it was looking like when you immediately got out of the box. So, you know, you may want to kind of go in there and just kind of clean everything up and make it look a little bit more presentable. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how the changes they've made does make this Selene a better looking likeness to Kate Beckinsale than perhaps the original one once was. So let's get a closer look at her face, and for that I might just move her hair out of the way. Let me know down below in the comment section whether you guys prefer rooted doll hair or if you prefer plastic molded hair. I think really it boils down to a case-per-case basis. Sometimes they do look a little bit better with plastic hair versus the rooted hair. But for the case of Kate Beckinsale, I think it works better by having rooted hair. Maybe it's because it's shorter, it doesn't look as ruly. I know I could probably go in there and still fix it up, which I will be doing in pretty much after this review is finished. I'm going to probably go in there and see if I can find the means just to, you know, kind of clean up the hair a little bit. But there is what the sculpting and the portrait of Kate Beckinsale looks like. I think it's pretty good, actually. Now, this one also does have the benefit of the LED light-up eyes. We'll talk about that right now. If you spin the doll around, unruly a bit is the hair right at the moment. You flip the hair back, just like that, and you've got yourself a battery cover. Now, I just wanted to bring the hair as far back as I possibly can. This will cause a little bit of the bed head that we will be looking at when we finish with this. But you just take this off. Batteries are actually included, but you do have to install them when you get this out of the package. I'm surprised actually that the battery cover doesn't have a better secure lock. It doesn't latch into place, it sort of just tabs on either side. I had to play around with the batteries. I couldn't get them quite working just yet, and just a matter of kind of tweaking it around. I think it's actually more so the switch that is a bit finicky. If they had gone the route of a button, I think it would have worked a little bit better. Instead, they went with a switch. I don't know if I'm concerned with hair coming close to batteries, but just for the off chance, just for my own peace of mind, I'm moving the hair away when you put the battery compartment back into place. That certainly can be said as well when you're adding the batteries in the first place. I would probably just bring the hair back completely just in case. You don't want to get any batteries in contact or hair in contact with those batteries. To switch it on, you clearly can see there's on, there's off, and we just switch it to on. Now this is one thing I did notice where it gets a little on the finicky side. If you get it working just right, it's not working right there, for example. You kind of have to fiddle it back and forth, and I find sometimes it's even on the angle that you press it. The lever kind of has the switch, I should say, has a little bit of a lenience up and down. And I find sometimes you have to flip it off, flip it on again to eventually get it to the eyes lighting up. And don't worry, you'll have to try back and forth until you eventually get it in working. Sure enough, I go to pick up the battery cover, realizing I had managed to light up the eyes. Let's go ahead and just put the battery cover back in place. Line that up over the slot. And just drop it back down. Again, there's nothing really holding the cover in place. Then you can go ahead and just fix up the hair. You can see how a bed head would be quickly created here on this particular release. But there you have Selene with her blue eyes. Rather effective, I must say. And to the credit of Starace, the fact that they were able to put in blue eyes, or the light up option to make blue eyes, and yet still not suffer anything when you turn the lights off, is still testament to the fact that they were able to pull off such a feat. Ultimately, it just probably is the fact that they've used slightly translucent plastic for the actual eyeballs so that the light would simply just project through that. But it's pretty bright, all things considered. And really, when you again think about it, if you turn that switch off, which I'll turn off in a second, nothing is sacrificed. The eyes look just as good as they did if there was no battery light up option in there in the first place. Very good job on that. To switch it off again, you're just going to turn this off, and I want to show you the difference between the on and the off. Let's see if we can switch that to off. There we go. And again, looking at it, you would never think that light up option eyes were even an equation, something that was factored into this figure. It looks just as good as it does if you were to light it up. Now granted, I would not probably have this running for a long period of time. I don't know to the duration of what type of battery life you're going to be getting with the supplied batteries that you're getting with this. But for certainly an option available, it's nice the fact that you can go in there and switch the lights on. Again, the hardest aspect of it, if anything, is just the fact that it gets a bit finicky. Sometimes they turn on, sometimes they turn off, or sometimes they don't turn on at all. It's just, again, a case of playing around with the light switch until you eventually get it. Again, I think a lot of it is just contributed to the fact that the lever, if this was only a button, you could just press it on and off. Instead, relying on the switch back and forth, sometimes the eyes light up, sometimes they don't. Now, for the figure's outfit, it stays pretty consistent with the one that we had gotten before. However, if you look at the two side by side, you can see that there are a few tweaks that they've done, mostly coming from perhaps new fabric that they've sourced out. I feel like the newer one, the version 2 Selene, does have better looking leather, although both of them obviously are going to be using faux leather. The thing about it also, if you compare them side by side, and we'll go ahead and grab them right now, if you put the figures side by side, you'll notice that there is a very different seam, or the patterning, I should say, seems to stand out a little bit more on the first Selene than what we got with this one. Now, there's nothing to say really you can swap one out for the other, but I do feel, again, like the type of faux leather that they used definitely seems better on the second release versus the original. Looking at the bodice doesn't look like it changes all that much, although if you look at it, this one actually feels like it's a little bit more of a denser faux leather. This one feels like it's a little bit softer. They likely have used a softer faux leather so that they could actually incorporate more of things like ab crunches, which would be a little bit more difficult on this one. There's definitely a different type of material that they've used. Even like the pants themselves, this one feels like it's got a little bit more of a sheen to it, where this one does not. And if you look at the boots themselves, we'll just move the jackets out of the way here. The jackets, or I should say the boots, don't look like they've changed all that much. In fact, to say that they're probably carbon copies to one another wouldn't be that much of a stretch. Of course, like the other 6-scale figure release, if you wanted to, you could take the jacket off completely. I'm just popping the hands off the forearms and sliding the jacket off. It also allows me the opportunity to show you guys just a little bit more of that detailing done to the back, done to the arms, the lower sections of the forearms, and even into the collar there as well. Now, I'm no tailor, but I can tell you though, I mean, consistent seems the Starace releases for the tailoring that they've done to all of their outfits. This one happens just to be, like I said, in a different type of material, but it's still consistent across the board. Now, if you wanted to leave this off completely, this gives you also an opportunity to at least see some of the additional stuff happening when you take the jacket off, like, for example, her bodice. The bodice is made of the same material as the rest of her outfit. I feel like I've said faux leather probably about a dozen or so times already, so I'll try to refrain from saying it any bit more. You've got the buckles located on the side. These are not detachable. It doesn't appear to be the case, at least, and they seem like they're just molded plastic. Zippers on either side, and you've got the lacing up the center. I really don't know why you would want to take this all off, but at least I would imagine the bodice had those zippers on either side, so of course they had to incorporate that into this figure as well. The one side, the one area of her shirt, has this part right here, this little velcroed sleeve. I don't know why specifically it's on that sleeve and not on this one right here. And I'm looking at the jacket. Let's just put this down here for a second here. The jacket doesn't seem to have an additional sleeve on the inside. I guess I would have to go back and double check the movie. Maybe there is a part on her just undershirt, her underbody suit there, where she actually does have this little Velcro sleeve. You could take it, of course, off, as you see right here, giving you this look. Personally speaking, I'm often at times considering displaying the figure, at least I did on the original Selene, like this. Of course, the jacket is a nice touch, but it's kind of the same way as the crow for me. At times, I feel like I want to take the jacket off and have just the crow with the outfit he wears underneath, and the same thing also for Selene. Sometimes I want to wear the leather jacket on the figure, and then sometimes I just want to take it off. The thing about this one also as well is that this one also includes the white jacket with the fur trim. The jacket itself kind of feels like it's a faux suede. Again, nice tailoring on the inside there. The pockets, if you have a look at them here, the pockets are not actually functioning pockets. What they've done is just seamed kind of the end, the opening basically where the hand would be able to go in, but it's not really a working pocket. This is probably like a faux fur material that they've used, and you can put, of course, the hood on top of the figure if you wanted to. To get this onto the figure, you're simply just going to pop the hands off. We're reversing the steps that we did when we took the jacket off, but we're going to just reverse this by putting the white jacket on. You just want to bring the arms back a little bit. Pull the arms through. I simply could easily just cut to the part where I've already done all of this, but I just wanted to leave this in so that you guys can see how easy it is to put the jacket on. There's no closure or anything like that. It's just going to drape open, as you see here. And of course, the only other thing I'd have to do is put the hands in place there. I did notice that there's one section where the faux fur isn't really attached to anything. It sits loose. I'd have to go and just see if that actually is the case, or if that's simply just a case where they just didn't sew it completely to the jacket. Again, if you wanted to, you could put the hood on like that, or you can, like I said, leave the jacket off. Constantly futzing around with the hair here, making sure. I will definitely probably want to go in there with some product, see if I can flatten it out. It should definitely not be as poofy as this. And then short of me just putting the hands back in place, that's what Selene looks like with her white jacket versus the leather jacket, which we started with. Wouldn't you know as well, when I take the white jacket off this time, what do I find inside the sleeve? It seems at the beginning of this video, the intro of this review, I actually had used the jacket already. And it turns out that the other sleeve, the little sleeve cuff here, was actually tucked inside the jacket sleeve of the white jacket. So I did in fact find the other half of that, and sure enough, during that time I looked online and just kind of checked some video clips. And Selene does in fact have these little zip-up gauntlets. Not quite gauntlets, but the little zip-up portions on the bottom of her shirt. So they are accurate. They don't have zippers, mind you, the 6-scale version of this at least, but instead they're using Velcro. So just as you see, she is supposed to have it. As she did in the film, she has it here as well in the 6-scale version of her. Now that we've solved the mystery of the missing sleeve, let's continue with the rest of this review. Accessory-wise, Selene comes with not one, but two two-toned Walther P99s. These are in fact the exact same P99s that she has from the original release. In fact, no trickery right there. There's the other one right there. Didn't believe me? Thought I just pulled the other one back? Shame on you. They are in fact the exact same P99s that she had. They also do have the removable clip, which are a little trickier to kind of get in there. It doesn't help also if you don't have long enough fingernails, but you can reach in there. I think I actually did it on one of them. You can reach in there, there we go, and you can pull out the clip with a fully visible bullet in the chamber. I guess the chamber would be up here. And like I said, you can display the figure either with the P99s, or if you wanted to, you can also put them into the holster located on the side. Included as well, she comes with the broadsword. Unfortunately, the sword coming in out of packaging seems slightly warped. I may actually have to just take a little bit of hot water, submerge it, and see if I could just level that off. The blade has been done in a real nice metallic silver with a slightly darker shade of that, almost borderlining a gunmetal gray, in the hilt section of the sword. Some nice detailing done to the top handled portion, and it does have a removable section that you can detach like so, but because she does actually have a hand for suited for holding the sword. Slide that in place, just replace the end of the hilt, and then she has the holding sword that she can hold in her hand. Speaking of also sharp objects, she does also come included with a little knife. I wouldn't necessarily categorize this as a hunting knife, but certainly it would be used for hunting lichen, so we'll go ahead and run with that. The handle is done in black plastic, the blade is done in silver, and again, just a nice little accompanying piece to come included with the figure. Slightly smaller are the next set of accessories, one of which being the shuriken that she comes included with. She also comes with the grenade. And I feel like both of these did come included with the original Selene as well, so perhaps nothing new in that department. If you did happen to have the other Selene, you would have that one shuriken, and then you would have two, so you could have the figure displayed with two if you wanted to make use of that. I like the fact that they actually even put in a little clip on the grenade. Don't pull it, whatever you do, but at the very least they've got that incorporated in there. And it's been done here also, like the sword, in a silver paint. Rounding out the rest of her accessories, she comes with a series of interchangeable hands. Currently in the sockets of her forearms are a pair of relaxed hands. You can count those as the 6. She does also come with the one that we had already looked at, the hand suited for holding the sword. Again, you're just going to take the end off like so, slide that through, and attach the other end just like that. And you've got yourself the hand holding the sword. The other hands that come included are another relaxed hand. This one is suited for holding things like the shuriken. You can just fit that in between her finger and her thumb. It doesn't hold it well, so I'm just going to kind of hold my hand underneath that. Tapping and shaking, and I'm probably going to drop it on the floor, so I certainly don't want to do that, but you just have that hand for holding the shuriken. And then the last two hands she comes included with are gripping hands for holding the pistols. You just fit that in between her fingers very gently, comfortably. And then as you can see, you can get the trigger finger to fit right around the trigger. Go fancy that. So she does come with those as well. A total of 6 hands with the figure. For her articulation, it's the following. Her head rotates all the way around. Again, you want to be very careful of that battery compartment. Banging it, as I've already done a couple of times, that compartment has popped out, so you want to just revisit that and put that back into place. You also want to be very careful, because with the battery compartment falling off as it does, you certainly don't want to lose the batteries that are contained inside either. You just want to be careful of that. The head does hinge up and down. It rocks back and forth. And because the light up option is technically up here, that doesn't limit any of the posability in her head when it's attached to the neck. So you can quite freely and easily move the head as you would with a regular 6-scale figure. The arms hinge outward, and you can move them forward and back. Not too much limited by the type of material that they used. Of course, the further you want to move the arm back, that's obviously going to be uncomfortable for her. And you also run the risk of damaging or ripping the seam on the sleeves here, so you just want to be careful of that. But the arms can move out at about a 90-degree angle. The elbow does bend in one place, in 2 places, giving you a total of a double bend elbow, a double hinge elbow. And the hands, whatever hands you decide to go with, have the hinge back and forth, and you can rotate them all the way around. The figure also has an upper torso crunch, not by much, mind you, but it does have a little bit of give. And I think a lot of it can be contributed to the fact that she does have the tight shirt on. A little looser up here, mind you, but very tight around this section here. It will limit a lot of what you can move up and down, especially back and forth on the waist. Lastly, for her legs, they split out. They go forward, they go back. She has a swivel on the top cut of the thigh, swivels right there, double hinge on the knee. And about the only thing that gets sacrificed, unfortunately, is Selene's lower legs, or specifically in her feet. Because this is all done in one mold, this plastic boot, it does really limit what you can actually do with her feet. Couple that also with the fact that she does have a footprint that is sort of cut off. She has only a footprint here, and in the back sections of her heels, that it does cause the figure having some stability issues when you want to display her. Of course, the remedied fix to all of that is making use of the display stand. It does come with the figure after all, and I probably would suggest using it, just because of the experience of what I've had so far with the figure. I find that she does have some instabilities when it comes to standing, and it's really more so chalked up to the fact that you can't bend the feet as much as maybe you could if those are independent feet versus, say, the rest of the leg, where, of course, the foot is on its own ball joint. Short of me actually going in and playing hairdresser and fixing up the hair issues for this figure, I don't think there's really much I would change at all to it. The likeness, I think, is better to the one that we had gotten before. And just for final looks, before the final looks, let's bring in, once again, the Selene version 1. I personally feel it's a vast improvement, and Star Ace has upped their game versus what we had gotten with the first release. I like the first one, but I think I much prefer, again, the fact that they used doll hair for the newer release. It sort of does up it feeling more like a premium figure release, because it does feel a little bit more like a realistic head sculpt by incorporating doll hair. The trade-off, unfortunately, for the doll hair is the fact that you do have to kind of go in there after the fact and do a little bit of finessing to it so that she doesn't always have that bedhead look. But I did deliberately, for the purpose of this review, I didn't go fancy on the hair. I didn't tweak it or anything like that, so that you guys could see genuinely what it looked like when you got it out of the packaging. Of course, there's lots of posers out there. Posers of figures, let me just stress that could go in there and do a really good job of like wetting the hair and making it look like it does in the film. As it stands, defaulted wise, I don't think it's terrible, but I definitely would go in there and just kind of tweak it and just fix it up a little bit so it didn't look as messy as it does right now. Underworld at its time was a pretty big movie franchise. Unfortunately, it went the route of Resident Evil. Okay, maybe not to that extreme, but it did go the route of releasing subsequent subpar sequels, ultimately damaging, I think, the franchise as a whole. At the very least, we got Kate Beckinsale back, so that's something. And it was nice to see her reprise her role in later films and coming back as Selene. Stars, in some ways, sort of have given us a sequel to the original Selene from the first Underworld. At the time that I picked up that figure, I was really happy with the fact that we were even getting a Kate Beckinsale Selene figure. But I have to admit, seeing it compared next to the Blue Eyes version, I can't help but feel that the other one now comes across a bit outdated. The outfit really hasn't changed, and in all honesty, the face hasn't changed all that much either. But it's something to be said about changing out from plastic molded hair to rooted hair. I think is really now where we're starting to see a little bit more Kate Beckinsale showing through in the portrait here. I also get a little bit of the Sandra Bullock vibe, I think, when I'm looking at the head portrait, but I'm really, really happy with how this one turned out. It goes to show as well, in the time frame from the previous Selene to this one here, how Star Ace was able to incorporate blue eyes, a light-up blue eye option, which I might also add, doesn't sacrifice anything from the head portrait. Often at times when you do have anything that has light-up eye options, as soon as you turn off the light-up eyes, you're usually looking at dark recessed sockets where the light bulbs actually are. So they've been able to actually accomplish the successful look of having light-up eyes, but still, if you turn the lights off, on the eyes that is, the eyes don't look that bad at all. It looks like the face never was supposed to have light-up eyes in the first place. So I really want to say good job to Star Ace for pulling that off. Of course, the hair does leave something to be desired in the sense that getting it immediately out of packaging, you may want to do a little bit of finessing. I want to say finessing to kind of fix the hair up a little bit. Being that it is rooted doll hair, and for the fact that you're going to be moving and lifting the hair up to get access to the light switch, is going to cause a lot of bedhead experiences. So you may want to go in there and just fix that up. As for the light up eyes, I do wish that they could have used a button rather than a switch. The switch does get a bit finicky, as well as the battery cover, which does fall off. If the figure falls over, let's hope it doesn't for you, the battery cover does pop off easily. Short of them changing that, I'm really overall happy with how this one turned out. The white jacket is a nice touch, but I don't know, I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to Selene's look. At the very least, I'll probably be displaying her either with the long jacket, or I'll just have her without the jacket altogether and just have her displayed like that. Either way, though, I'm really happy with how this one turned out, and a big thank you to the folks over at Starace for sending this my way. What do you guys think down below? Let me know in the comments section down below what you guys think of the new Underworld Evolution Selene with her blue eyes. Kind of like the idea of having her eyes light up. I know, they're pretty cool. Also, if you guys want to go back and have a look at all my Starace reviews, there's a playlist specifically just for Starace. Make sure as well you hit that subscribe button, and periodically make sure you check over at the homepage just to see if there's any new videos that you can get a gander at. Keep your peepers peeled, because there's certainly going to be a whole lot of newer videos coming to this channel on a regular basis, so stay tuned for those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.